Aleph Gimel.
Mm-hmm.
Of them is the one who cohabitates with the nida, in that he transmits tumah to a bed that is beneath him, like that which is above. Above them is the charge of a zav, spittle. His semen, his urine, and the menstrual blood of a nida, and that they transmit tumah via contact and by being carried. Above them is a merkav, in that it transmits tumah from beneath a place rock. Above a merkav is a mishkav, or its contact is equal to its being carried. Above a mishkav is a zav, and that a zav creates a mishkav, whereas a mishkav does not create a mishkav. Above the zav is a zava, and in that she transmits the tumah to any man who cohabitates with her. Above the zava is a mixed mitzorah, in that he transmits his tumah via entry into a covered area. Above the mitzorah is a bone the size of a barley corn, and that it transmits the tumah of 7 days. More stringent than all of them is a corpse, and that it transmits tumah via an ohel, a means by which to all others do not transmit tumah. 10 levels of tumah emanate from a person. A mechusa kaparam is forbidden with regard to kodesh, and he's permitted with regard to truma and mysis. If he subsequently becomes a tova yom, he is forbidden with regard to kodesh and truma, but he's permitted with regard to mysa. If he subsequently became a balkari, and he is forbidden in regard to the 3 of them. If he subsequently became a bal nida, he transmits tumah to a bed which is beneath him, and like that which is above. See, subsequently discharges became a zav who experienced through discharges. He transfers tumah to a miskav and a moshav, and he requires immersion in spring water, but he is exempt from an offering. But if he experienced 3 discharges, he is obligated to bring an offering. He subsequently became a confined mitzorah. He transmits tumah via entry into a covered area, but is exempt from letting his hair grow wild, from rending his garments, from shaving, and from the birds. But if he was confined to mitzorah, he is obligated in all of these. If a limb was severed from him that he does not have sufficient flesh on it, he transmits tumah via contact and via being carried, but it does not transmit tumah via an ohel. If it does not have sufficient flesh, if he does have sufficient flesh on it, he transmits tumah via contact, via being carried, and via an ohel. The amount of flesh deemed sufficient is enough to affect healing. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if in one place there is enough flesh to surround it with the width of a weft thread, it is enough to affect healing.
Okay. All right. So, having discussed all the levels of tumah, the Mishnah wants to conclude the perek with a corresponding elevation in tahara and kedusha, because it's not nice just to be talking about tumah all the time. Before that, I wanted to add a little interesting tidbit. The previous Mishnah said that the highest level of tumah is the corpse.
Right.
But there's an interesting little halachic wrinkle that they say that hameis metame ve'eno tame, that that it transmits tumah, but it itself is not tame, which absolutely blew my mind when Rav Haber said it. He said it during the Tzidkas Tzadik Shir. Okay, that it's considered that somehow the corpse transmits tumah, but it itself is not tameh. So I said to him afterwards, it's a lovely thing to say, but how did that make any difference in the world? And he says it actually does have enough kamina, because if it's for a case of a cemetery, where you have flights over the cemetery, where there's a majority of non-Jews in the cemetery, and the Kohen's on a plane and wants to know that the flight path goes over the cemetery, is he allowed to go in this plane? And the question the hinges on the fact that if the mace is kavua, right? If you've got a tumah that has a fixed place, then you've got a safek, then kol kavua k'mechza mechza dam. It's like a 50-50, and therefore the Kohen would not be allowed to go in, even though it's a minority of Jewish graves.
But if the corpse is in the ground.
The corpse is in the ground. And if the corpse is itself tameh, then it's considered that the tumah has a place, and therefore it's 50-50. But if the corpse itself is only mitame, but it's not itself tame, then it's not considered kavua. It's not considered as if it's fixed. And you can go according to the statistics and say, well, it goes according to the proportions, that there's majority of non-Jewish graves over here, and therefore the non-Jewish graves are not mitame ba'ohel.
No, it doesn't transmit. Even though they're flying over, it's not transmitting tumor to a Kohen.
The Kohen is allowed to fly over the cemetery because it's mostly non-Jewish. It's an very interesting little wrinkle how they came up with that. It took a lot of halachic heavyweights to come up with that one.
That's very strange, because you would think if he's retired, the highest level. That's the highest level.
Anyway,
you can't go in a house. You can't do anything. But here you can fly over the.
But I mean, lahalacha, the Tumas Ohel only is for a Jewish corpse. A non-Jewish corpse is matame b'maga, and we know this from the Torah because when they had the war of Midian, that somebody killed somebody with a sword, so you killed a Midianite with a sword, becomes tameh himself.
Right.
Okay, but there's no Tumas Ohel by a non-Jew.
So that doesn't hold. If the corpse can not Tommy anyone, he can make anyone Tommy. Colin still can't walk there though. He'll fly over it maybe if it's
that's correct. Correct.
But he still can't walk there.
Because when he's walking in there, you can see what the graves are. But while he's flying, he's besafek.
All right.
Okay. It's more complicated than that. I can think of several levels of questions over there, but that's going to take us off our topic. Anyway, back to Eretz Yisrael.
Okay.
Eser Kedushas Hein. There are 10 levels of Kedusha. Eretz Yisrael, Mekudeshas Mikol Ha'aratzos. So the whole world is holy because it's like Lashem Ha'aretz Umloa, everything belongs to Hashem, but Eretz Yisrael is higher Kedusha than everywhere else in the world. Why? What's the difference? Ma'i Kedusha Sa Shemevim Mimena Ha'omer V'Abikurim V'Shtei Alechem. Right, these 3 korbanos have to come from produce of Eretz Yisrael. You cannot bring produce of Chutz La'aretz, even from from areas that are Darabana and part of Eretz Yisrael, even from Eber Hayarden. You can't bring it. It's got to be from Eretz Yisrael proper. Which you cannot bring from anywhere else. Okay. So the next level of Kedusha in Eretz Yisrael is cities that are surrounded by a wall. Because a Metzora is not allowed to stay inside a walled city. He gets sent outside. Okay. If somebody dies in a walled city, they're allowed to move the mace around inside the walled city until they decide where he's going to be buried. But once he's been removed from the walled city, he cannot be brought back in. Right, this is the kedusha of the walled city, is that it's not allowed to have a mace in it. Now we can also add the things. Okay, so they do Megillas Esther on the second day, right, and also what were the other things that we said about the walled cities? For laws of Yovel. And redemption, that the walled cities have only 1 year redemption, and Yovel doesn't return them. But that's not something that's obvious about Kedusha. That's just something that seems like could just be like a wrinkle in halacha. It's not something that shows a greater or lesser level of Kedusha. Okay. Lifnim Amin HaChoma. Okay. Inside the walls, Mekudash Mehem. Okay, these are the walls of Jerusalem, what we're talking about. Okay, so Jerusalem is a walled city, but Jerusalem specifically has an extra kedusha of the than other cities. Because that's where you're allowed to eat shlamim, where you're allowed to eat maaseh sheni. Anywhere else outside Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to eat it. Okay. So that's an extra level of Kedusha, which is Yerushalayim. Then, within Yerushalayim, there's Har HaBayis. Okay? Har HaBayis, remember, is that very large 500 by 500 square meter area, which is which we saw in Midos. Okay? She'ein zavim v'zavos nidos v'yoldos nichnasim l'sham. Right, all these 4 levels of tuma are not allowed to enter Har Habayis. Okay, zavim, zav, zava, and nida, and yoledes, meaning yoledes. What's the difference between what is yoledes? Is until she has brought her korban, I think. Oh no, it's during her 80 or 40 days or her 80 days.
Okay.
Right, depending on whether it's a boy or a girl. Okay. So even though she's bedam tahara up until her 40th or her 80th day, she's still not allowed to enter the Har Habayis. Okay. Then within the Har Habayis, remember we had the Cheil. That's the steps leading up to the main Azara. Okay. And the Cheil is more kaddish than the Har Habayis. She'ein goyim utmei meis nichnasim l'sham, because they drew a line around there. Now, actually, midoraisa goyim are allowed pretty much anywhere because midoraisa goyim are completely exempt from any kind of tumah. They don't have a halacha of tumah. However, Chazal made a gezerah on goyim for the sake of Jewish people, so that they shouldn't interact too closely with non-Jews, and gave them the din of zavim. Not of zavim, did they say of zavim? It could be, because then they wouldn't be allowed to come in. Yeah, that's right. They made them zavim, but zavim are not allowed to enter any part of the Temple Mount. But Chazal were lenient in this aspect and treated non-Jews no more severely than a Tamei Mace. Right. Okay. So now when we go up to Har Habayis these days, we are not allowed to go beyond the Cheil, because we're still Tamei Mace, even though we've been to mikveh to get rid of Tumas Keri. There's still we still haven't got rid of the Tumas Mace, and therefore we're not allowed to go further than where the Cheil would be.
When you go to up to Har Habayis, you go to the mikveh by Har Habayis. There's a mikveh there to go to. I never went up.
Oh, you've never been up? Oh, okay.
Oh, no, that's wrong. No, back in the
the
80s, the late 80s, I was up, but after that, I haven't been up there. So, so where's the mikveh? You go to the mikveh here before you go.
Go to mikveh here.
Ah, okay. I thought it had to be over there. That's what I was thinking.
No necessity. So then I'm a Tvul Yom. But a Tvul Yom is more lenient than a Tamei Mace. So I'm following the laws of a Tamei Mace rather than of a Tvul Yom. Okay. So someone who's Tamei Mace cannot go beyond the Cheil. Ezras Nashim Kodeshes Mimenu. Now the Ezras Nashim, that's the big square with the 4 offices in the middle. Okay. Right. You've got your diagram there on page 116. Right. So number 4 is the Ezras Nashim.
Right.
Okay. So the Ezras Nashim Mekodeshes Mimenu. That's even more sanctified than the Cheil. Why? She'ein Tevul Yom Nichnas L'Sham. That's even so if you're tahor from mace, but you're a Tvul Yom, you can't go in there. Ein chayvim aleha chatas. But there's no chiyuv of chatas for somebody who walks in there while he's a Tvul Yom. Okay. But hang on, is that a general thing? To any tamei person, yeah, the commentary down here is just saying that it's so the penalty of kares is only for beyond from the Ezras Yisrael. Okay, so here comes the Ezras Yisrael. Ezras Yisrael mekudeshes mimenu she'ein mechus hakipurim nichnas l'sham. Somebody who has not yet brought their korban and is not currently in the process of bringing his korban, I should add, because in order to bring his korban, he's got to get in there. Okay, so if walking in with his korban, that's his ticket to get into the Ezras Yisrael. Okay, but if not, he's not allowed to go into there. And if somebody is not tahor and they walk in here inadvertently, then chayavim aleha chatas. Hang on a second, chatas. That actually it should be korban oliva yored. Why is it chatas? I just suddenly realized that it should be in contrast to a Mitzvah or Zav, mistakenly, right? The time a person enters there, he is obligated to bring a chatzas offering. Although no, we find deliberately that doesn't time deliberately enter the camp of the Shechina. Anyways, it's kares, yes, but what happened to the korban olav yored? That is curious, because one of the things that that you bring a korban olav yored for is Tumas Hamikdash v'Kodashav, for walking into the temple while you're tameh. So I'm not sure why this is now talking about a chatas, and the art scroll doesn't even mention it. Curious. Tzarich Iyun. I don't know why it says this. Okay, hold that question. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Okay. Ezra's Kohanim. So now your next is so the Ezra's Israel, if you take a look in your diagram on page 116. So number 5 was the Ezra's Israel, number 6 is the Ezra's Kohanim. Okay. Ezra's Kohanim Mekudeshes Mimena She'ein Yisrael Nichnasim L'sham Ela B'shas Tzorcheihem. So only Kohanim are allowed there unless a Yisrael is bringing a korban. Okay, l'smicha, l'shchita, v'letznufa. Okay, he's bringing. There are 3 things that a Yisrael has got business doing in the Ezra's Kohanim. He's got to lean on his korban. He's got to, if he wants to do a shchita on the korban, he's allowed to. L'snufa, and there's some of the things of a wave offering where the Kohen and the Yisrael are both holding the thing together. So like Shlamim also has a tnufa in there, so he needs to be there for that, and those are good excuses for a Yisrael to be in the Ezra's Kohanim. And that's it for today.
Okay. All right.
Midos.
I just talk about all the things I think about what would happen if Baruch Hashem, the third base of Mikdash was here, and they started doing all these, all the things that they have to do with the slaughtering and the waving and the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine what would be going on. The protests about the Palestinians is nothing compared to what going on.
The animal cruelty, right?
Oh my gosh, I can just picture it. Okay, we are in Midos, and we have above Aleph. The entire courtyard is 187 amos in length, 130 amos in width. From the east to the west, the courtyard measures 187 amos. The area in which Yisraelim walked measures 11 amos. The area in which Kohanim walked measured 11 amos. The altar, 32 amos. Between the antechamber and the altar measured 22 amos. The Hekel measured 100 amos, and 11 amos behind the chamber of the ark cover. From the north to the south, the courtyard measured 135 amos, and the ramp and the altar measured 62 amos. From the altars of the rings was 8 amos, and the area of the rings measured 24. And from the rings to the tables was 4 amos. From the tables to the dwarf pillars was 4 amos, and the dwarf pillars to the northern wall of the courtyard was 8 amos. The remainder was between the ramp and the southern wall of the courtyard and the area of the dwarf pillars. There were 6 chambers in the courtyard, 3 in the north and 3 in the south. Those in the south, the salt chamber, the parva chamber, the rinsing chamber, The salt chamber, they put salt for the offerings. In the parva chamber, there they salted hides for kedoshim. And on its roof was a mikveh for the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. The rinsing chamber, they would rinse the innards of the kedoshim offerings, and from there a spiral staircase ascended to the roof of the parva chamber.
Okay, that's it.
That was it. Oh.
Yeah, that was 3.
I think tomorrow. Yeah, we need something new for tomorrow.
That'll be Keilim.
Keilim?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Me'ilah. Beit Tet.
Yep.
Comments of Kavana, the guitarist, the Minka of Kohan, the Minka of the anointed Kohen, and the libation Minka are subject to Me'ilah from when they are consecrated. Once they're consecrated as sacred service vessels, they become prepared to be disqualified to contract with the Temple Yom. Through contract with the Kippurim and are through remaining past their time. One is liable on their account for Noser or for Tameh, but Pigel does not apply to them. This is the general rule. Any sacrificial item that has permitters, one is not liable on its account for pickle, loss, or tummy, and until the permitters have been offered. Any sacrificial item that does not have permitters, as soon as it is consecrated in a sacred service vessel, is what is liable on its account, and no sort of tummy, but not pickle, does not apply to it. The offering of a katos, the more of a katos, the katos whose owners have left to died are left to die. Wait a second. Okay. The offering of a katos, the tomorrow of a katos, and the katos whose owners have died. All right, my head got mixed up. Are left to die. Regarding a katos whose year had passed and one who was lost and then found blemished, if after the owners have atoned for their sin, it is left to die, and it does not make a tomorrow. And it's forbidden for benefit, but it's not subject to me'ila. But if before the owners have atoned for their sin, it is left to graze until it develops a blemish, and then it is then sold, and the owner purchases another katos with his proceeds. The original katos makes a tomorrow and is subject to me'ila. Regarding one who sets aside money for his Ntiros offerings, the money is not permitted for benefit, but is not subject to me'ila, since all the money is fit to be brought as a shalom. If the nazir died and the money was unspecified, it falls into the funds of voluntary offerings. If the money was specified, the money has started designated for the katos will go to the Dead Sea, and that money is not permitted for benefit, but is not subject to me'ila. With the money designated for the olah, they should bring an olah, and with the money designated for the shlomin, they should bring a shlomin, and the shlomin may be eaten for one day and does not require the company bread.
Okay.
And this is Gimel Aleph. These are accounted trade for animals. An animal whose esophagus is punctured, whose trachea was severed, if the membrane of the brain was punctured, if the heart was punctured into its cavity, if the spine was broken and its cord severed, the liver was removed, and nothing remains of it. If the lung was punctured or if it was deficient, Rabbi Shimon says not unless that penetrates to the bronchia. The abdomen was punctured, or the gallbladder was punctured, or the intestines were punctured. If the inner punch is punctured, or if the greater eye of the outer one was torn. The Yehuda says in a large animal, a handbreadth, and a small animal, the greater part. The omasin or the reticulum are punctured to the outside. If it fell from a roof, if most of its ribs were broken, or one that was clawed by a wolf, Rabbi Yehuda says that, one was clawed by a wolf is with trefa in the case of small animals, but only if clawed by a lion in the case of large animals. One that was clawed by a nate in the case of a small fowl, or one that was clawed by a gaze in the case of a large fowl. This is a general rule. If the animal with a similar defect cannot live, it is a trefa. And the following are kosher animals if the trachea was broken or slit. How much may be missing? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says up to the size of an Italian isser. If the skull was cracked but the membrane of all the brain was not punctured, if the heart was punctured but not built into its cavity, if the spinal column was broken but the cord was not severed, the liver was removed but an olive-sized piece remains, the osum and the rectum were punctured into another. If the spleen was removed and the kidneys were removed, the lower jaw was removed, the uterus was removed, or the lung is shriveled, through non-human agency, one whose skin is flayed, the mayor declares it fit, and the sages declare it unfit. Okay.
One more.
And these are accounted trade for in fowl. A fowl whose esophagus is punctured or whose trachea was severed. If a weasel struck it on the head in a place where it renders a trefa, if the gizzard was punctured, the intestines were punctured, it fell into a fire, and its internal organs were scorched. If they would turn green, they are unfit. If they're red, they are fit. And if one trod or knocked against a wall, or if an animal crushed it and it flutters and it remains alive for 24 hours and you slaughtered it, it is fit.
Okay.
I don't think we finish this tomorrow. Let's see. No, we have a long way to go. Okay, Baba Basra. No. We do not provide a courtyard unless there are 4 cubits for each one, nor do we divide a field unless there are 9 copses for each one. Rabbi Yehuda says unless there are 9 copses for each one, nor do we divide a garden unless there is a half a cob for each one. And Rabbi Akiva says a quarter cob, nor do we divide a salon, nor a hall, or a dovecote, nor a coat, nor a cloak, nor a bathhouse, nor a volley press, unless there's enough for this one and not enough for that one. This is the general rule. If anything that which can be divided so it retains its name we divide, but if not, we cannot divide it. When when they do not both consent, and when they both consent, they may divide with even less than this. However, they may not divide holy scriptures even if they are both consent. A man may not dig a pit near the pit of another, nor a ditch, nor a vault, nor a water channel, nor a laundress pool, unless he distances them 3 handbreadths from the other's wall and plaster them with lime. One must distance olive refuge, manure, salt, lime, and stones 3 handbreadths from the wall of another, and a plaster with lime. One must distance the seeds, a plow, and urine 3 handbreadths from the wall, and one must distance the mill bath 3 handbreadths as measured from the lower millstone, which is as measured from the upper millstone, and an oven by 3 handbreadths as measured from the base, which is 4 as measured from the rim. Man may not place an oven in the house unless there is a height of 4 cubits above it. If you wish to place it in the upper story, there may be a layer of plaster of 3 handbreadths thick beneath it. For a stove, 1 handbreadth. If it causes damage, you must pay for the damage. Shimon says they say that all these measurements only so that if it causes damage, they should be exempt from paying.
Okay.
Okay.
Keilim, yeah.
Okay. Hey, Olive. These are the administrators who were in the temple, Yochanan ben Pinchas over the tokens, Micaiah over the Skaka, Matishah ben Shmuel over the lot, Pesach over the bird offerings, and Pesach is Mordecai of Miguel's Esther. So why is he called Pesach? What is it? Pesach. The Hebrew, it's okay. So because he was able to open up mysterious matters and investigate them, and he knew 70 languages. Ben Akiah over the treatment of stomach disorders, Nakanya, the digger of pits, Gavina, the crier, Ben Geva over the locking of the gates, Ben Bevel over the ship, over the whip, Ben Azra over the cymbal, Hungrush, Aleva over the singing, the Gomer family over the preparation of the pot of bread, the Avinas family over the preparation of the incense, Elazar over the curtains, and Pinchas over the vestments. It says here in my notes that I have here, that I wrote down, that wasn't Ben Bevia, it was Ben Beba. Bebi. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
That's more subtle than I
there may not be less than 3 treasurers in the temple, nor less than 7 superiors, nor may financial authority be set up over the community with less than 2 orisons, except for Akayahu, who was in charge of the treatment of the stomach disorders, and Elazar was in charge of the curtains, because most of the community accepted them as over itself. There were 4 different tokens in the temple. Inscribed upon them were Hebrew words for calf, ram, kid, sinner, respectively. And as I said, there were 5, and inscribed upon them were the Aramaic words of calf, ram, kid, indigent sinner, and wealthy sinner. The calf token serves for the sucking of cattle, whether adults or young, male or female. And the kid token serves for the sucking of the flock, whether adult or young, male or female, except for an adult ram. The ram token serves in the sucking of rams owning. The sinner token serves in the sucking of the 3 animals comprising the offering of Mitzorah. When required, the sucking would go to your Yochanan minister over the Turkins, give him money, and receive a token from him. Then they would come.
No, that's sorry, we're to the next mission already now.
And in a case where 10 children were placed on one on top of another, and a Zav slept upon the top one, they are all Tamei Midrash. In a case where a Zav was on one pan of a scale and the couch or seat was on the opposite side, if it was Zav way down the side, they are Taho. But if they weigh down their side, they are Tamei. Rav Shimon says in the case of a single couch or seat, it is Tamei, but in the case of many, they are Taho, because no one couch or seat supports the majority of his body. If a Zav is on a pan of a scale and food and beverages on the second part, on the second part of the scale, they are Tamei. With regard to a corpse, everything is tahor except for a person. This is the stringency that applies to a zav over a corpse, and this is the stringency that applies to a corpse over a zav. A zav creates a couch and the seat beneath him with his ability to contain a man to contaminate clothing, and on top of him, the zav creates a madab with the ability to contaminate food and beverages, whereas a corpse does not have the power to contaminate in these ways. This is the stringency that applies to a corpse, that a corpse contaminates in all hell and contaminates others with a tumor that lasts for 7 days, whereas a zav does not have the power to contaminate in these ways. If a zav was sitting on a bed and there were 4 shawls under the 4 legs of the bed, they are Tamei, because the bed cannot stand on 3 legs. Shimon rules in Tahor. If a Zava running on an animal and there were 4 shoals on the animal's 4 legs, they are Tahor because the animal can stand on 3 legs. If there was a single shoal under its 2 forelegs, or under its 2 hind legs, or under one of its forelegs, or one of its hind legs, it is tummy. Rabbi Yoshi says a horse conveys tumah through its hind legs, while a donkey conveys tumah through its forelegs. For the primary support of a horse is on its hind legs, where the primary support of a donkey is on its forelegs. If a zav sat upon the beam of an olive breast, utensils that are in the pressing basket are tummy. But if he sat upon the launder of his breast, utensils that are underneath are tahor, and red lechamia removes them tahor. Tummy. Okay.
Adkan. Okay. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy.
Okay.
See you Sunday, Mr. Shem. Okay. Thank you. Bye.